everybody. Hank Linderman here. It's Monday, October 12th. In the year 2020, what a strange ding-dang year. And you're going to notice I've moved. I'm out on the porch. And while I got set up outside just because I wanted to see about getting ready to be able to do this on the road, because that's coming up, I think, in the next several weeks, and actually very, very soon. I think I'm going to be going from place to place. I'm already looking. The weather has changed a bit, so now I've got to change how it looks. The weather was bright and beautiful out, and I think there's rain coming. So this could be very interesting here with all this equipment. I may show you what's going on here in a bit, if I can find all my cables. But anyway, so glad you're here. Look who's here. Jim Porter is here. Mark Maselli is here. Cindy is here. It's a gorgeous day. Yes, indeed. Please, everybody, share. It helps get the word out there, and so glad to have you. And hi, Mary. Hi, Chris Pritchard. Hi, Randy. Anyway, so like I say, look at this. I'm outdoors, and, if I could find the right cable quickly, I could plug it in. I found the cable. So here's what I might be able to do, is show you what I'm up to here, just so you have some idea of the level of difficulty, the level of complexity that I have, that I'm dealing with. So let's see. I'm going to hook the cell phone up and turn on the camera. Here we go. So I should be able to switch to this and give you an idea of what I'm seeing. So this is what I'm seeing. See the microphone, see the monitor, see the camera over there. There's the computer. There's the sound effects guy. There's the switcher, so I can switch various things, and there's control of the camera. So that's what I'm doing. And here's the lake. Of course, look how close it is, but we've got some clouds coming, so this could be a very interesting time. Anyway, I thought you might get a kick out of that. I hope you did. Let's do our homework. Let's do the things we got to do. I guess the first thing we should look at is the numbers. And remember, of course, that after the weekends, the numbers get a little fuzzy, they get a little hazy, they get a little loose. 325 deaths yesterday on Sunday, but 41,935 new cases. That's still pretty serious. Now, the thing is, there wasn't a lot of anything notable in the individual state files. There wasn't anything interesting about that, because again, they're they're a little bit behind things in terms of reporting. But look what I found. This is confirmed COVID-19 cases per day by the U.S. states and territories. And I found this on Naked Capitalism, which I'm always going on about as a wonderful source, nakedcapitalism.com. You all would know what I'm talking about if you just read Naked Capitalism in the morning. Anyway, this comes from today's water cooler section, and they are presenting it from, this is a chart that comes from Johns Hopkins. So look at that. And their comment is, unmistakable rise in all regions now, super. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if the virus is really cranking in November or December. So look, this is a time for you to up your level of caution dealing with the virus. I have been going on weekends. My brother and sister-in-law are just up the road, and they've been sweet enough to feed me on Sundays, and we sit outside and we keep our distance, but we're even getting concerned about that. They had another couple over the night before, and while we were sitting together, they said, let's see if they'd like to come by because they were interested in meeting you, and we'll keep our distance and everything. And the message we got back was the wife was not feeling well, and they said it was allergies. So hopefully that's what it is, but that's how easy it is to get exposed. I think wearing masks is good, obviously keeping social distancing, being outside, minimizing the time that you're close to someone, all of that makes a massive difference. Let's see what we got next. This is comparing the United States new cases to Southeast Asia and East Asia. Look at the difference. And notice there's a little orange kind of blip on the left. That is China. And China is, wow. China is supposedly got their thing together. Now, we all know that we have questions about how trustworthy they are, but then again, I think it would be difficult for them to cover up the level of, serious damage that they'd be facing. Ooh, sorry, do you hear that? We've got a boat out there. You might see it over my shoulder. Let me get out of your way. See if you can see the boat go by. Yeah, the water is starting to go down on the lake. The boaters are starting to leave. They're putting their boats up. It's that time. The next thing I want you all to look at, if you can, please, is this map. Now, this is the early voting. Again, this came from Naked Capitalism. This is everything today from Naked Capitalism, I guess. Not quite. This is early voting. And there's a total of 9,720,384 ballots already reported in these states. And they show you by the color how serious that is. And look at Florida. Look at all those early votes. Now, what does that mean? We don't know. We don't know. My suspicion is it's just people wanting to vote early. And I think Florida might be one of those states where Republicans and Democrats vote early. But we'll just have to see. I think we'll have to wait. But I think it's possibly encouraging, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. I'm going to be encouraged about it. I'm going to choose to be encouraged. This raises something that maybe we should talk about now. I have a close friend, and she and her husband have been helpful to the campaign. They've been good friends. They've been good support and really a good source of ideas, particularly as relate to rural issues. And recently, one of them posted on Facebook their absentee ballot, getting ready to send it in. And it had been filled up and sealed out, but it clearly said absentee ballot, and it was getting ready to be dropped off. And posted that on Facebook thinking, great, I'm voting, great. What happened was unusual. This person got attacked by people that were in their friends list, attacking them for voting absentee, that was going to be a fraudulent vote, that it shouldn't be counted. This is a new, serious thing. I think what's going on probably is that the Trump supporters, President Trump himself, is getting very concerned about what he's seeing in the election. Joe Biden's lead apparently is the largest lead a challenger has had since the 30s, and it looks to be pretty solid. I think that the debate went very, very poorly for President Trump. I think that a lot of his followers are having second thoughts, and they're losing enthusiasm. We're also seeing some Republican senators start to say things that indicate that they're maybe questioning how close they want to be aligned to President Trump. So we're seeing all this, but meanwhile, the foot soldiers that are out there in Facebook land are responding pretty aggressively. And you may find them on your Facebook feed responding to you, especially if you do something like, I voted today, go Joe Biden. And the kind of attacks that you get are things like, you Democrats or libtards, so it's a lot of name calling. It's accusing you of, you want to do evil things like pack the court or, make Puerto Rico a state or make the Washington, D.C. a state. All of that, Democrats. I love that one. So lots of name calling. There's lots of concern. So I thought I would share with you a couple of things about dealing with trolls. And this is something that we have learned. When you're dealing with a troll, the suggestion I have to you is give them as little attention as possible. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. The first thing is just don't respond to what they say, because they will not be... they're not going to argue fair. And I'll show you what I talk about. If someone wants to actually argue fair, I don't care if they agree or not, but they need to be willing to argue in a way that expands our knowledge, helps us understand each other, reaches towards some sort of some sort of accommodation of each other as Americans, whatever. So anything like that is fine. But simply trolling to start, throwing excrement at each other, the best way to stop it is simply don't respond. Now, there's another thing you can do on Facebook that's very helpful. You can, of course, delete their post. Since it's on your feed and you've posted something about you voting and someone's giving you some manure about it, you can just delete them. The problem with that is that they know that they've been deleted. And so as a result, they will tell their friends and say, see, this is what, this is the libtards can't take it or whatever. So I think that deleting them is less effective than the other option, which is just hide their response. There's a little button when you see, the only person who can see it then is them. Everyone else doesn't have to look at it anymore. No one's even aware of it. And Mark Maselli is saying, or hide it. Exactly. That's what you do, is hide it. Well, then they see it and they go, no one's responding to me calling them libtards. They don't notice me. So I think that's the way to go forward. Don't give them a calorie. Now let's talk about actually arguing. Okay, let's talk about that. Here's something that I used to have to post on my Facebook page. I haven't had to do it for a while, but this is the way that, because we've all had bad experiences arguing, especially if you're arguing to prove yourself right, which you may or may not do. You don't really change any minds. That doesn't really happen. So I put up this list. Let's get a look at it. This is how to argue. And we're saying that winning is not the point. The point is for us to learn about each other. The point is to get a chance to explain to each other. The point is to solve some problems. And we do that by not using personal insults. We don't do name calling. We don't threaten each other. No intentional misdirection, which are lies. No broken records, meaning once you've made your point, you maybe even do it twice, but once you've made your point, move on. No rhetorical tricks for the purpose of winning the argument, okay? There are various rhetorical tricks. Changing the subject. No changing the subject. It's okay to agree when we're arguing. In other words, if I'm talking to someone, and this happens to me rather regularly, I'll be talking to someone who's a Republican, because my neighborhood is mostly Republicans. And I listen carefully to them because I listen for something that I can agree with. And when I find something that I can agree with, then we have a much nicer conversation. Then it's much easier for them to go, you know what, I actually kind of agree with that, what you're saying about healthcare or whatever. The next thing is be prepared to back up what you're saying, either with some research that you've done a good job on, and do your best to use unbiased research. That makes a massive, massive difference to be able to back it up. So that's the point. And, we have lots of issues here in the United States. And in the 2nd District, there are some serious issues based around the ideas of what we call the 4 Gs, God, guns, gays, and gynecology. And those issues are social issues that have been taken over by the Republican Party. And it's interesting, by saying, giving fealty to those ideas, God, guns, gays, and gynecology, they don't really have to do anything for the people in the district. They don't have to, for example, work to get rural broadband. They don't have to work to make sure our rural hospitals stay open. They don't have to make sure that working people get paid enough so that they can have a living wage. All of these things that we want don't have to be paid attention to because you gave them the 4 Gs. What do they do with all that political power? Because with all the political power that rural districts have, remember, rural districts, 25% of the population, represent something like 37% of the Senate, rural states do. So with all that power, we should already have rural broadband, but we should already have rural hospitals staying open. We should already have working people who are paid enough, paid a living wage, and actually being paid similar to the way that they were paid in the late 70s. Anyway, what's been done instead is they've allowed corporate contributors to contribute to their campaign, get them elected. They vote the way those contributors want them to vote, and then they are able to make them and their friends very, very wealthy. And that's one of my complaints about folks like Mitch McConnell or his acolyte, Brett Guthrie. Mitch has been in the Senate, for 42 years, $34 million. Some of it because he married well, I suppose. Brett Guthrie's been in the House of Representatives since 2009, so this is his 12th year, I guess. And one estimate from a website called Sludge, getsludge.com, is that he's now at around $11 million, but they're not sure. They're really not sure because he's refiling his financial statement. We do know that his company, Trace Tool and Die, recently got $4.4 million in PPP loans, and that money appears to be the largest PPP loan given to any business owned by a current government employee. So it's hard to believe. So that's what happens. They'll give you lip service on God, guns, gays, and gynecology, but they won't actually deal with the problems that you have to live with day by day. Okay, so they won't actually fix that. So that's why I am running. John Alma Barnett is here. John Alma knows to share. Lisa Holton says, never get into a pissing fight with a skunk. It's better to say nothing sometimes. That is certainly true. And Barbara has the right answer. Yes, hide it and don't say anything. That really is the best thing. There's another country one that I've heard is never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. So don't need to do that. Danny Baggerly says, one of my Republican friends was getting ready to call me a libtard, so I beat him to the punch. I said, don't you know I'm a libtard and I'm proud of it? He never called me a libtard. Chris Pritchard says, graft is the fifth G. I'll have to think about that. It's not as exciting as the others, but I like it. It's very creative. Thank you, Chris. The thing that I do when I meet Republicans now is I don't say I'll meet somebody new in the neighborhood or someone who's kind of visiting in the neighborhood. By the way, I'm running for Congress. Oh, which party are you part of? And I say, well, I'm a damn Democrat. And I smile. And that usually gets a laugh from Democrats, and it usually gets a laugh from Republicans. Look, we need to be better neighbors to each other. We don't have to, point fingers at each other and call each other names. And the easiest way to stop that is to stop doing it yourself. Paul Carter is here. He says, don't feed the trolls. Amen. Don't give them the bandwidth. Danny Dugan's here. Danny Dugan says, I heard your comments about a friend's absentee ballot. In my opinion, if you're able, please vote in person. That is certainly what we are being advised recently. In fact, there's been a couple of scandals going around. I believe in Orange County, California, they just had some fake drop-off boxes. Someone set up a fake drop-off box to trick you into dropping your ballot off. So be very, very, very careful that you are dropping your absentee ballot off at the correct place. Usually it's going to be at your local courthouse in Kentucky in the 2nd District. Nina Berry is here. Nina, do us a favor and share. Danny Dugan, do us a favor and share. I'm so in the mood to play some more Name That Republican, but there's some more quotes that I need, so I'm going to gather them. I'm kind of enjoying this being outside, but it does look like the storm is coming in, and that'll be interesting to be here as a Kentucky thunderstorm takes over. We'll see if it does. So the next thing for us to talk about, but I messed up. I printed up the paperwork to it, so you will have to wait just a second while I go get the paperwork that's printed. Enjoy the lake. I'll be right back. It'll take me 15 seconds. I will be reprimanding my assistant later. My assistant is me. So let's look at this fascinating Bulwark article, okay? Let's see if we've got it up. Who's up for some court packing and some questions for Trump? Now, I'm just going to read some of the highlights of this, but I'd suggest you go, I do love the Bulwark. It is, even though it is even though the Bulwark is very conservative, their writing is exceptionally good, and I just love it. So they say, welcome to the Countdown Journal. There's 22 days until Election Day. Aren't you ready for Election Day? Aren't you ready for all of this to be over with? Oh, good. Paul says I was less than 15 seconds. I didn't have that far to go. Like I say, I'll reprimand my assistant later. And then it's 78 days to the inauguration. Now, knowing our president, he's going to do everything he can to drag that out with every option, to kind of, he's going to do his very best to just muck up every little bit of it. And some of his supporters will be doing the same thing. But just everybody hang on to your attitude, hang on to your positivity. Not always easy to do. Not always easy to do. Over the weekend, the media was focused on Joe Biden, who was continuing to attempt to dodge the question over whether he supports court packing. Now, court packing is this idea that the Supreme Court could be expanded in size, and when Democrats get a new majority, if they're fortunate enough to get the presidency, if they get the Senate, if they keep their majority in the House, they just decide, you know what, how about 15 judges? Let's put 6 new judges on the court, and they're all going to be liberal, right? That would take care of things. Now, Biden's choices, according to the Bulwark, are: 1, he can endorse court packing, adding new justices by legislation, which would overshadow every other issue in the campaign, represent a flip-flop, because he's actually expressed the other idea, and set the stage for a culture war battle that would consume the early months of his administration, and one that he could lose. That's his first option. His second option is he can declare opposition to adding judges, which would anger and or demoralize some of his base in the final days of the campaign, and it would surrender his negotiating position by giving up whatever small leverage he has to discourage bad behavior by the GOP and Supreme Court of the United States. Number 3, he can continue to dodge, which is what he's been doing, which will feed Twitter outrage. Oh, my Lord. Annoy the media again and make him look weaselly. You can see why he has so far chosen number 3. I was speaking to someone who talked about social media, and they called it, I think it was Randell, made the comment that social media is like taking a drop of water and dropping it onto a griddle that's ready for pancakes. And it makes makes some noise and steam and all this, then it's gone. So bear that in mind. Ticking off Twitter is not that big a deal. Now, Tim Alberta, I don't know who Tim Alberta is, but he on Twitter apparently said, here's the right answer that Joe Biden should make. Ready? Look, that isn't our decision to make. Congress would need to pass legislation to expand the Supreme Court, and there's no use speculating on that possibility when we'll face immediate challenges on day 1 of a Biden administration. It's not hard. That's the right answer. Interesting. Mark says, that'd be funny. In future years, the members of the Supreme Court would outnumber the Senate. Oh, boy, that's funny. Yes, Sandra Burns says she's having Billy's having technical difficulties today. So Sandra is Billy's mom. So she's saying, please do us a favor, share. Thank you, Sandra. Jim Porter, they will pour cement into the drains in the White House. I think that's probably true. I hadn't thought of that. I don't know. Put glue on all the door handles in the house, glue every door handle. That'd be pretty funny. Let's see. Can I get this a little brighter? Notice, see, my producer needs to step up here. There we go. Brighten it up a little bit. I'm going to give up. Well, anyway, let's keep on. there are other things, of course, that the trolls are saying we're going to do. We're going to supposedly, oops, here's what I can do. There we go, brightened it up. Sorry about that. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. Make Puerto Rico a state. I personally think Puerto Rico should be made into a state. It's been a territory for a long, long time. And I'm thinking that Puerto Rico, why shouldn't they be a state? You know, Hawaii and Alaska were added, they were territories, and they were added in, I believe, 1959. Both of them were added and became the 49th and 50th state. I remember one of the big concerns was, how do you fit 50 stars on the flag? That was the big discussion, because 48 fits so perfectly, but 50 doesn't. Anyway, yeah. Joe Biden, by the way, back to this court packing thing, he has said several times that he doesn't support court packing. And they have all kinds of interviews. And so in response, by the way, the Bulwark says, well, instead of focusing on that, why don't we ask President Trump some questions? Like, will you fire the FBI director after the election? Will you order the Department of Justice to indict political opponents? Which ones? Who do you owe that $400 million to? Will you withdraw from NATO in a second term? Remember, by the way, President Trump has not come up with any kind of second plan. A plan for his second term. He hasn't done any kind of laid out what policies he would follow or what he would be doing in his second term. Kind of unprecedented. They would just stick with the first one. Anyway, will you issue pardons after the election? Paul Manafort, members of your family? Will you rule out a self-pardon? That's a great one. That's just a great one. Which executive orders would you issue to circumvent Congress? How do you intend to fund Social Security? What is your health care plan? Will you still claim success when the pandemic death toll hits 300,000? You know, I forgot to even look at our overall death toll, and my fault. So let's go back and look at that real quick. 219,000. We will certainly hit 220,000 today. Just hard to believe. John Alma says, no need, he's out. John Alma, from your lips to God's ears. We certainly hope so. But Democrats, folks, don't take anything for granted, please. Don't take it. And don't think that our job as citizens ends at the election. It does not. I know John Alma is going to be involved politically after this election. I know Paul Carter will be involved after this election. I know most of you will be involved. It is so important. That is why we have a government that doesn't really represent us, that represents the people who put these folks in office, these very wealthy and powerful corporations, and also very wealthy and powerful individuals. Doesn't take that many of us, but it takes a certain amount. It takes about 3.5%. So I do need for you all to understand your work does not finish on November 3rd. Okay, so be prepared. And we already know what that means, that we're going to have to manage our anger. You know, anger has, hope has two beautiful daughters from St. Augustine. Anger and courage. That's why we talk about getting angry. And that when you get angry, you use it to focus your determination and your courage. Thank you all for being here every day. I'll be back tomorrow. We've got some guests this week, hopefully Timothy Schmidt. We haven't picked out a day yet, but we're working on it. And looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. I love you, and thank you for being here. All right, hang in there.